I'll be speaking about delegation and situational leadership. Before I get onto it, I'd like to begin with the end in mind. Work out how to use this laptop. One thing I've been striving for many years is what makes up an effective team. And this is one of the quotes which guides me. It says that an effective team is one in which it helps ordinary people do extraordinary things. So what's not to like about this? It's a great quote. The problem is in this. We hear buzzwords such as delegate to empower. And if you look at the manual we've got here, it's called Delegate to Empower. So what don't I like about this? Much. When it comes to this, I'm a leader, been given the power, and I've got lots of jobs I need to have done. So I know I've got some volunteers who are going to join my committee, who are going to work with me. I'm going to delegate these jobs. And here you go. Got the job. Got it? Fine, get on and do it. And that's what happens far too often. And I was reminded of this when I was doing the preparation for this speech last week. When I was speaking to a colleague about this, and he said, "You're joking, that's what happened to us in our team. We had this new starter. He was a graduate, very intelligent man, had got lots of degrees, and he had been employed to do a particular job, to look at processes and document control. And he arrived on the Monday. No one was expecting him. The leader hadn't told anyone and wasn't there. So this poor chap sat down. They found him a seat at least to sit on. He didn't know what he was supposed to be doing. Eventually one of the team members suddenly looked around and suddenly realised that, oh, this is the new start that they had been expecting but hadn't been told. So this guy being proactive, gave him something to read, helped him set up his computer, and he got going. 2 days later, the leader shows up. So this guy's been sitting there for 2 days, being really productive, not. Next thing happened, the leader took this new starter away. 15 minutes later, brought him back and disappeared, leaving this poor chap sitting there, bewildered, and he had this like headlight caught in front of a headlight sort of look about him. The following day, he was looking disheveled. His body language was just awful, and the other guys just went up to him and said, "What's going on? You just joined, you should be euphoric about this, you should be elated." And he said, "I've been given the task to rewrite a process, and I've got to do it by next Tuesday. That's only 4 days' time." Okay, do you know what you're doing? No. Can you get into the systems? No. The poor chap was drowning, and then had only been on the job for 4 days. This is typical. It's typical, and this is what annoys me so much when I hear this, that the so-called leaders say, "I've given you the job, therefore you should know what to do." And it's true, a lot of people come in and are very proactive, but nevertheless, you need to have some guidance, and this is what I'm going to be talking about tonight. And why is this of importance to all of us in this room? Each one of us, at some time in our careers, will either be in a position of leadership where you will delegate a job to someone, or you may find yourself on the receiving end and be delegated to. What I'm looking at tonight is giving you some ideas of how we can improve that situation. And it's called situational leadership. This is a system which was designed and developed by a gentleman called, I forgot his name, the 1 Minute Manager. If you've heard of the 1 Minute Manager series, Ken Blanchard. Ken Blanchard and his associates got together and started to look at how would we make management and leadership easy. And they broke down the core parts of what they felt was difficult within management and tried to make it easy. And they came up with this idea called situational leadership. Now before I go on to exactly what it is, you can see that it's made up of different quadrants. and it starts in the bottom right-hand corner and goes up to the top right, across to the left, and then down. So we start off with something called directing, then we go to coaching, then we go to supporting, and then finally delegating. Now, delegating is the nirvana. It's the ultimate goal. It is where you have a team that absolutely knows what they are doing at all times, and they need very little maintenance from anyone. I'll give you an example, a great example of a great film which I came across, which illustrated this idea of delegation perfectly. It was a film called The Boat. I don't know if anyone's heard of it. It's a German film. It was set in World War II, and it takes place on board a submarine, a U-boat. It's not a normal heroic film, but it's very heroic at the same time. It takes place on this submarine, and the crew have been at sea in the North Atlantic for 3 weeks. It's hot, it's stuffy, it's cramped, it's horrible conditions. They are searching for the US and UK merchant ships to sink. Captain is at the conning tower. He's got his conning tower, he's looking above the sea waves, and he's searching along the horizon to find any enemy ships. Below is all is calm. The sailors have been at sea for 3 weeks. They're relaxing. Some of them are sleeping, some of them are eating, some of them are playing chess. They've got in various forms of undress. Some are wearing their uniforms, some are not, and it's just a disheveled bunch of them down there. The captain is not looking at what they're doing. He's not paying any attention to them. He's solely focused on the enemy ships. And then suddenly he spots some ships coming towards him, and everything changes. He looks, he verifies, and then gives the order. Battle stations! And in an instant, the atmosphere within the whole boat changes. There's movement, there's running, people are off their beds, people getting their uniforms on, they're moving. In seconds, and it appears like seconds, everyone is at their position, ready. The captain, meanwhile, hasn't moved, hasn't needed to. He knows that every person in his ship knows exactly what to do, how to do it, when to do it, why to do it. He doesn't need to look. And that to me is an example of an extremely well-organized and delegated team. And that's what I'm always trying to achieve, but it's very difficult because we come back to this idea, it's called situational leadership. So let's go through this in a bit more detail. What does it mean and how can we make it work for us, and what should we be aware of? It means that every person's situation when they join an organization is different. Each person within the team is going to be somewhere on this quadrant, and they may be going between the quadrants. They may start at the bottom, they might be in the top, they might jump right into the middle. They're going to be all over the place. But invariably what happens is, if somebody joins your team for the first time, you as leader will need to assess their skills. You will need to say to them, this is the job we're asking you to do. You've got the qualifications to do this, but you don't know us. You don't know how we work, you don't know the formats, you don't know where to put your documents, you don't know where to make the tea, you don't know anything. So there's a lot of what is called directing. It's show and tell. It's back to school days. This is how you do this is where you find that, this is how you go, this is who you speak to, this is it. It's all directing. Until at such a point where the leader and the person being delegated to at this point is comfortable to move on to the next section, which is coaching. So here you are, you've been in the job for a week or so, or 2 weeks, and you're getting the hang of it. The job of the leader then turns into that as a coach. It's not telling you what to do, because you're showing what you can do, but it's giving you guidance of how best to execute a piece of work. What are the tips, what are the templates to use? That type of work. The distance between them can vary, and you can go back and forwards between the two areas. It does not matter. It's not hard and fast rules that you start off with delegating, directing, and then you go into coaching and then stay there. You could always go back because there may be other areas to look at. This then moves into an area called supporting, where The leader and you have come to the conclusion that the person has demonstrated they know what they're doing. So instead of you being there at their beck and call all the time, you're there when you're needed. You're playing a supporting role. And then this leads on to the final role, which is delegating, where you don't need to tell the person what to do. They know what to do. They're telling you what they are doing. They're reporting back to you on a regular basis. This is what I'm doing, boss. This is how I'm doing it. And you're not having to say anything. What you are doing occasionally is going between the delegating and the supportive role, as and when it's required. Give an example of this system in action here in this club. I've been doing it. I've been doing it with the handover of my role as treasurer. Been working with Elaine, and we've been working through exactly this. Taking the role. Elaine had never taken the role as treasurer before, so I had to tell her, this is how you do it, this is where you find the information, this is what you're going to do. And then it moved into the coaching role of, right, so now you know where to find all the documents, this is how you go, now this is the best way of doing it, this is how I would advise you to do it, this is when you should do it. And because the role is a very large role, we're alternating between directing and coaching, because as we add more pieces to the treasury role, we need to go back to basics again, and then we go back into coaching again. But ultimately, I'm expecting within a month or so that we'll be moving into the supportive role, and then after 2 or 3 months, we'll be moving into the last role there. Okay. So this is just an overview of the situational leadership. I'm going to do a follow-up speech where I look at it from the other point of view. So this is the leader looking at delegating roles out. I'm going to look at it from my point of view of when I come into the role, what are my needs? How do I want to be delegated to? How do I want to be directed? Not be passive and wait for the leader to tell me what to do. I want to go and be proactive to the leader, but I need to understand what it is that I'm trying to achieve and how this quadrant, this paradigm can help me to do that. Because my ultimate aim is to have an effective team, one in which helps ordinary people to do extraordinary things. My challenge for all of you and a call for actions is think about when you are delegating or being delegated to, where are you in this quadrant? Where do you see yourself in your current role? How do you react to your leader? I believe if we start looking at this in detail, we have a better chance of creating incredible, effective teams in no matter what organisation we are, whether in Toastmasters, whether we're in other organisations around the world. We just got to keep going at it, keep analysing it, and if we do, then we're going to stack the odds in our favour.